Now let's make this failing test pass. First of all, the test fails because it asserts that the component should display 4 different stocks. When the page is loaded in a browser, these stocks will come as a result of the API call. And it will be responsibility of a service to call the API and provide the stocks to the component. So the first step in making this test pass is to mock the stock service. And note that the service doesn't exist yet. So here I'm mocking the return of the getStocks method of the service to have it return a mocked list of stocks. So let's define this variable that will contain these mocked stocks. And again, here you're setting the expectations of what the service should return when calling the getStocks method. This will actually make implementing the service easier because you already know what exactly it should do and how the component is relying on it. Now back to the mock statement. Before it can work properly, we need to do a couple of things here. First, import and install a library called Jasmine ES6 Spies, and then create the stock service and add it to our test, which is required to be able to mock it. So let's add an import statement for the mocking library on top of the file, and let's install it using npm, and then let's generate the stock service so that we can actually mock it. And then I add a provider's property to the test configuration to tell the test runner to inject a mocked version of the stock service. And then make sure that you imported the service at the top of the file. And then declare the variable that will reference the mocked service. And then assign the instance of the mocked service into that variable in the before each statement. Next, you see how TypeScript is highlighting the getStocks method of the stock service? It is because when we generated the stock service, it didn't add any new methods. By default, it doesn't have any methods. So that's why it is highlighted, because it doesn't exist. So let's head into the stock service file and declare the method. Now back to the test and see that it is no longer highlighted red. Now if we check the test runner, we see that it is still failing with the same message, where it is expecting 4 stocks to be present, but there are in fact 0. And the reason for that is because in our template, there is no logic that is responsible for outputting those stocks that we mocked through the service. So let's fix that. So let's make this test pass in the easiest way imaginable by declaring 4 HTML elements with a stock class, and that should be sufficient. And if we check the test runner, we now see that the test is passing. But obviously this is not how the component is supposed to work. The list of stocks should be coming from the service and not to be hard-coded in the HTML. To make this dynamic, let's use ng4 structural directive to iterate over the stocks property. And now let's go into the component controller and declare that stocks property and save the stocks that are coming from the service into the property. And now in theory, the test should be passing because everything we have is in place. But if we check the test runner, it says that there are no stocks displayed. So one last thing to do here is to move the change detection trigger after we mock the service call. And after we check the test, it is now passing.